Hello and welcome back. This is another 5th and 6th grade decimals video. In this video, we are going to focus on how to do mixed operations with decimals. So mixed operations means we're mixing up all the 4 operations today. We're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Okay, here is the first problem we're going to be doing today. We're going to be multiplying 3.4 times 2.8. So when we multiply decimals, the first thing that we do is we ignore the decimals, and we're going to write the problem without the decimals in it. So that means I'm going to write 34 times 28. Now, if when you do your multiplication, you like to use a different method, like a box method or a partial product method, that is totally fine. For this video, I'm just going to show you using the standard algorithm method. But if you have a different way that you like to multiply, please go ahead and do that. And then we'll talk about what to deal with the decimals after that. So first I'm going to do 4 times 8, which is 32. So in the standard algorithm, when I get a 2-digit multiplication answer, I drop the ones place digit down and the digit in the tens place goes up to the next place value. So I need to split this 32 and put 2 down here and 3 up here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is multiply 3 times 8, which is 24, and then I'm going to add the 3 that's on the top. So that would give me 27. So again, I'm going to drop the 7 down and regroup the 2. So the 7 goes here and the 2 goes up here. Now, if there's nothing to hold it, it's just going to fall straight down and land right here. So there is my first partial product, 272. Now I'm going to get rid of these little numbers, these lines. I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm even going to cross this out because I've already multiplied everything by the 8. I'm going to add a 0 here to show that now I'm multiplying by a number in the tens place. So 4 times 2 is 8. Since that's a single digit answer, I don't have to split it up. I can just put the 8 right there. 3 times 2 is 6. So same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and put it right there. It's a single digit answer. Then I'm going to add the 2 partial products together for my final answer. So 2 plus 0 is 2. 7 plus 8 is 15. And then 1 plus 2 plus 6 would give me 9. So here's my answer, 952. Now I need to go back and deal with the decimals. So what I'm going to do is, now that I'm done multiplying, I'm going to add a decimal to the end of that answer. I'm going to move that decimal into the left depending on how many decimals there were in the original problem. So if I go up to the original problem, I see 2 digits that were in decimal place values. So I'm going to move the decimal for the answer 2 places to make it match. So my final answer here is going to be 9.52. Okay, here is our next problem. We're going to take 0.4 and subtract 0.15 this time. Okay, so whenever I'm adding or subtracting decimals, I need to make sure that everything's lined up on top of each other by decimal place value. So I'm going to start with 0.4. I'm going to start by writing 0.4. Then I'm going to put the decimal for the second number right under that, put my line and my subtraction sign, and put the decimal for the answer just below that so that all the decimals are lined up. Now I'm going to fill in the second number around the decimal that I placed. So that has a 0 in front and then a 1 and a 5. So now everything's lined up by place value. You may have noticed there's an empty space above the 5. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill that in with a 0. Now I can go ahead and subtract just like I would as if these were whole numbers. I can't take 5 away from 0, so I have to come over here and take one of these away, making it 3 and making this 10. So 10 minus 5 is 5, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So the final answer to this would be 0.25. Okay, here is our next one. This one's an addition problem. So we're going to be adding these decimals together, which means we also need to line them up just like we did in the last problem. So I'm going to start with that first number, and it has a lot of digits. So I'm going to put 942.583. Okay, there's my first number. I'm going to erase this little dot I accidentally made. That's kind of bothering me in the middle. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put a decimal down here. I'm going to put my line, plus sign, and decimal for the answer just below that. So all the decimals are lined up. Now I'm going to fill in the second number around the decimal that I already placed. So 0 goes in front of that decimal, then followed by a 7, a 3, and a 3. Okay, so now I can go ahead and add as if these were whole numbers, but I don't have to worry about decimals in this case. I know it's already placed for me. 3 plus 3 is 6. 8 plus 3 is 11, so I would regroup that second one. 5 plus 7 is 12, plus another 1 is 13. And that's going to be 3, 4, and 9. So my final answer would be 943.316. Okay, here is our next one. We're going to take the number 361 and divide it by 2. Now you might be thinking to yourself, there's no decimals there. There isn't yet. There might be when we divide it. So what we do is when at this level of 5th and 6th grade, we're not getting remainders anymore. We're turning those remainders into fractions or decimals. So for this, we're going to turn it into a decimal. So I'm going to start with 361 inside the division bracket divided by 2. For this example, I'm using the standard algorithm to divide. If you have another dividing method, that is totally fine. I'm going to go ahead and make it reappear the invisible decimal that is already there after the ones place. So after every number's ones place, there's always a decimal that's there. We just don't usually write it if we don't have anything to come after it. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and make it reappear so that I can place it up into the answer space before I begin dividing. That way, if I do end up with a remainder, I can keep dividing and turn it into a decimal. So 2 goes into 3 once, which is 2. Subtract that, get 1 left over, bring down the 6. 2 goes into 16 8 times. So 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract that, 0 left over. Now, while I don't have a remainder, I'm not quite done yet. So I have to bring down the 1. 2 does not fit into 1, or you could say it fits in 0 times. 0 times 2 is 0. 1 left over. So now here's where before you may have been able to say, oh, remainder 1. Now we're going to have to turn that into a decimal. The way we do that is to add a decimal if it's not there already, and then add a 0 to the remainder and keep dividing. So I'm going to turn that 1 into a 10 by adding a 0. Then 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. And when I subtract it, I have 0 left over. So now if I have no remainder and no more numbers to bring down, I am finished. So the answer here would be 180.5. Okay, here is our last example for today's video, and it's going to be a division example. We're going to take a decimal and divide it by another decimal. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up as 7.2. And I'm going to divide it by 0.5. So the easiest way to do this is to actually not divide by a decimal. In order to turn that 0.5 into a whole number that I'd rather divide by, I have to move the decimal over here so that it becomes 5 instead of 0.5. I can do that as long as whatever I do on the outside, I do on the inside. So since I moved it one place on the outside, I need to move it one place on the inside as well to make it match. Then I can put the decimal up into the answer space above where it is in the problem and begin to divide. I realize I have a lot of lines here, so maybe I get rid of this one and this one. Okay, so 5 goes into 7 once. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 left over, bring down that 2. 5 is going to go into 22 4 times, so that would be 20. When I subtract it, I have 2 left over. So here's another situation where we can't have a remainder. So to keep going, I have to place a decimal, which I already did, but also I have to add a 0 to the remainder and keep dividing. So I'm going to make 2 into 20 by adding a 0. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is exactly 20, which means I have no remainder. So now with no more numbers to bring down and no remainder, now I know my answer is complete. So my answer here would be 14.4. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you in another video very soon.